Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today we're talking about some great summertime albums. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So I guess I should preface this by saying that some of these albums are albums that have a good summertime feel to them. Others I kind of look at as summertime albums because they remind me of a specific time period or a specific summertime.
Which are most of mine, by the way.
Yeah. So, but the first one I've got, it definitely has a summertime feel to it. I mean, you can't think of summertime without having the Beach Boys. I know Ian can because Ian hates the Beach Boys.
I've made my views on the Beach Boys very clear. I don't hate them. I'm just relatively indifferent to their existence.
But how can you? I mean, it even says "Sounds of Summer" across the bottom, Ian.
Yeah. Well,
it's a great summertime album, but
Simon and Garfunkel have a song called "Sound of Silence." Silence is by nature not silent, or doesn't have a sound.
I think it's the whole point of it.
I know, but my point is that could be ironic too.
But the Beach Boys, I love the Beach Boys. They're fun. They're just you can put on songs like Kokomo and just kind of relax, and it just kind of takes me back to a summertime. It gives me a summertime feel to have this on. But the funny thing is, this album, this is another one that my wife has a whole summertime playlist that she puts on when she's out in the pool. This is one of those albums she's got on there, and obviously before she did that, it's always been one of those albums where, a nice 95 degree day, have a nice drink, put on some Beach Boys. It's a good day.
95-degree day is a nice day. Yeah. So like I said, most of mine are going to be more just like albums that I listened to for a summer. They were big for me in the summertime. And to be fair, most of these are going to be from the 80s because that's when I was enjoying summer. When I was, growing up, I had to work and it didn't matter. But when I had time off, as a kid and the summer was
then
fun.
You grow up and life is depressing and you no longer enjoy your summertime.
Yes, but don't tell them that. But yeah, so first one is Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Summer of '87, this was on. My friends and I, we were always outside playing baseball in the backyard, and this would be playing. We'd have this on, and actually other albums that are coming up. But this one, because this was my introduction to Guns N' Roses as well, it was that summer.
Yeah.
So, this is a big standout. Actually, I want to say this even followed over into 88 or 89 even.
Probably.
Maybe, just one that was always being
played. It was a
played.
huge album for
several years. Yeah. So my first one, this one I always think of summer, and I do try to listen to it at least once in the summertime, just as
way to kind of take you back.
Take me back. Yeah. Remember the good old days.
Another album for me that's a lot like that Beach Boys album is Bob Marley. Legend is an incredible album. Of course, it's a compilation of all the great tracks from across his career. But when I think summertime, it's kind of the same thing. I think reggae music. It's not something I want to listen to in the middle of the winter. I mean, you can, but it always has that kind of summertime feel when I listen to anything off of this album.
So my next one is another one that summer of '88 played. My stepbrother had a copy of this on cassette, and he was always playing this. And ironically, it was either this or NWA. I don't know why it was just those two albums during the summer, but this one stood out to me because I like the rock more. So every time I was over at my dad's, my stepbrother always had this playing, and it just takes me back to the summers hanging out with him. Because he's considerably older than me actually, but we were still kids-ish, and it was probably one of the few things that we could have in common was music, and this really kind of stood out as a summertime album.
The one thing I never understood about this is I had this on cassette.
Me too. Because I bought it.
And the cassette had the black bar across the tongue and across, all you could see was just the eyes on there. I get it, it's probably a little satanic panic of the 80s and all that nonsense, but it just always seemed like a dumb thing to edit off of the album cover.
Yeah, especially since there's other album covers out there that were way worse and they didn't get edited.
No. So my next pick is kind of an interesting album because I guess I don't really know why I think of summertime when I listen to this album.
I have a theory.
But whenever I do, what's your theory?
Well, show them what the album is first.
The album is Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
My theory is because you think of California, you think of summer.
I guess maybe that's what it is.
I
don't
do.
know. And I guess the videos that they had for this, I looked like they were always taken in like the desert in California somewhere. So
Yeah,
maybe that
summery.
does kind of play into it. But yeah, I mean, it's just like whenever I put this on, I instantly think of 85 degrees, nice sunny day, like the wind blowing through what's left of your hair.
How would you know you don't have any? At least I have some. Yeah, it's a good album. I don't really think I can see, like, if you say Californication, that California, I think of summer, but because every time I've ever been to California, it's been in the summertime.
No.
So I guess that would, at least for me, would be that.
I guess it kind of makes sense.
But it's a good album. I don't think it's Red Hot Chili Peppers' best album, but it's a good album.
Yeah.
So this next one is another one. It was tied with Guns N' Roses. So if it wasn't Guns N' Roses we were listening to while we were playing baseball, it was Licensed to Ill by Beastie Boys. And this was one that, like, I didn't really get it. I didn't understand this whole, like, hip-hop mix with rock kind of thing. But it just seemed to work so well. And it,
especially on this album.
Especially on this album. And it just, again, when I hear this album, and I have to try and listen to it at least once in the summertime every year, it always takes me back to those summers of playing baseball in the backyard with my friends. And we'd, like I said, Guns N' Roses and Beastie Boys on all the time.
I remember, like, the summer this album came out, my brother had it on cassette. I ended up stealing it from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to it all that summer. And it's funny, like, I remember that whole summer listening to this album. And then for some strange reason, like, 1995, I think it was, like, summer 1995, really? For some reason I got, like, hooked on this album again. I don't really know why. I remember it was one of my friends at that time had played it, and it had been years since I'd listened to it, and I was like, it kind of just brought back all those memories for me. But yeah, like multiple summers, like decades apart, I kind of have ties to this album.
I would say it's kind of the same with me. So, like, that summer it was huge, and maybe like with Appetite for Destruction, maybe a couple summers in a row. But then after that, you get older, you get into other music, and you're not outside playing baseball in the summer. And I want to say it was probably maybe 25, 30 years till I was like, I want to listen to that again. I don't know why. I mean, I've listened to other Beastie Boys stuff, but for some reason, this album I never really went back to. And now it's one that, since I've gone back to it, it really took me back to those summers. So, like I said, I have to listen to it in the summertime at least once.
So the last album I have is kind of along the same lines as what you're touching on there. This album here is one that, when it came out, it was nonstop. I'm sure I drove you crazy with it.
No, because it's one that I would probably hear and associate with summer too.
Yeah.
Because it never came out of your car.
The summer of 2002, I listened to Take Off Your Pants and Jacket nonstop. I mean, I drove you crazy with it. I'm sure I drove my wife crazy with it. It was,
you weren't even married yet. You risked losing her.
Yeah. 2002. We got married in 2002. So.
Oh, yeah. And with summer, you would have been married.
So I was married.
You risked divorce anyway.
But seriously, all summer long, this is in the CD player in my car. I would listen to it in the house. It dominated that entire summer. And, like, even listening to it now really kind of takes me back to that early 2000s.
What's funny is before that, it was always like Green Day. Like Green Day or Social Distortion or Rancid would always be in your car. And it was like just kind of like that, or like even like Less Than Jake even. But then all of a sudden this was like only in your car. And it's like, whatever happened to those other bands? You have other CDs, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is about this album is it took me way longer than it should have to understand the title of this album. I don't know why, but it was seriously like a good...
Well, I always thought it was like a double meaning thing, but I just assumed that was like just left open to interpretation. I didn't know that they actually meant the double meaning.
It was one of those, it was probably like a good couple of years later where I was like sitting on the couch one night and I was probably listening to this on CD and I just looked at the title and was like, oh, okay. Now I kind of feel
But
dumb.
they've confirmed that that's exactly what they meant.
That's exactly what it
because
means.
back then you just go, maybe that's what they mean. You never know.
It is a great album. I still love it to this day.
So my last one is that, now see, this one I probably would still listen to it on the summer base, every summer, but I don't. But it did dominate pretty much the summer for like 4 years, as well with those other albums. And Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi. Well, I don't know. I struggled with that one. But anyway,
It's not a tongue twister.
it is really not. But so this was huge. Just late 86, I think, is when it came out. So,
I think so.
into 87 and then into 88. This was an album that kind of took over the Michael Jackson era for me. Because, I mean, before that, it was always Thriller. Thriller was the summer album. I didn't have it on my list because we've already talked a lot about Thriller.
Yeah.
But this kind of took over for that. It's like when this came out, Michael Jackson kind of disappeared from my.
For me, it was like Thriller and then Purple Rain were really dominated the couple years before.
That Purple Rain's another one that probably could be on our summer list, I think.
Yeah.
One, each of ours. But for me, this one kind of dominated. This was even before Appetite for Destruction and Beastie Boys. This was big. I mean, I would go to my friend's house. We'd listen to it over there. I'd go home. I'd listen to it at home.
Yeah.
It was always on my in my cassette.
Heavy rotation.
Heavy rotation. And honestly, this is probably what really got me into hair metal, for whatever It's not hair, it's not metal, but hair rock, because this is Bon Jovi it led into Poison and Rat and Cinderella and all that other stuff. If it weren't for this album, I may not have gone down that road, which eventually even led to like grunge and alternative and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, Bon Jovi, it doesn't hold up for me, but it is a good album, and it definitely dominated my summers.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Love to know what some of your biggest summertime albums are. There's so many great ones out there. Could have definitely gone more than the ones I picked on here, but let us know what you guys think. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.